Okay. Welcome everyone to the Institute of Global Professionals free webinar, a platform that continuously aims to share valuable information with the rest of the world. Institute of Global Professionals free webinar that aims to feed your skills, always aiming to innovate, inspire, and give an impact. I'm your host for today, Sarah Gabrino, a volunteer of IGP and a Filipino teacher currently based here in Vietnam. And I'm sure that there are new attendees of our webinar, so let me just give a brief introduction of IGP. IGP, or Institute of Global Professionals, is a community where the best and trained speakers and coaches all over the world come together to voluntarily impart their expertise, knowledge, and wisdom in the hopes of empowering and educating millions of people around the world. So you are lucky that you have decided to join us today. IGP is now leading in providing opportunities for every individual. We're proud to be entrusted with global recognition such as the International Standards Organization or ISO, which is backed up by the high credibility, recognition, and improved consistency of our speakers. We at IGP have been providing specialized webinars filled with practical knowledge that does not only help, but make you thrive and adapt in our constant changing and developing world. Up until this moment, we have 180 webinars that you can freely access and enjoy. Just go to our Facebook page and browse the webinars that uh, with different topics that choose that you can that interest you. You can still get the e-certificate for that particular webinar, given that you watched until the end. We hope that you continuously support us in meeting our goal of reaching millions of people by liking, commenting, and sharing our webinars with your friends and loved ones. You never know what a simple act of sharing can do to other people's careers. As IGP keeps on saying, power is gained by sharing knowledge. So don't forget to share, tag, comment, and mention your friends in the comment box. Let's connect, share, and go viral. Reading is one of the foundational skills of literacy that we shouldn't neglect. With the pandemic going on, it's been challenging for educators, parents, and learners, readers themselves to keep up. But with us today are Mr. Mike Damaso, Miss Sunshine Patpatan, and Miss April Guevara, amazing educators from the Philippines with love, very much ready to share and address these challenges and discuss our today's webinar main topic, interventions during pandemic. But before turning over the microphone to our dear speakers, again, please don't forget to like and share, comment below to help our platform. We're also giving the code for your e-certificate anytime during the webinar, so stay tuned. Okay, without further ado, let's all welcome our very first speakers, Miss April Joy Guevara. Miss April?
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Miss April.
Hello, ma'am.
The microphone is all yours. Please enjoy. We can't wait.
Okay, thank you, ma'am Sarah. So, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our viewers all over the world. I am teacher April Joy Guevara, a junior high school teacher from the Philippines. And let me grab this opportunity to thank IGP for this opportunity to share something to our viewers. It is such an honor for me to share reading innovations in this time of pandemic. Since we cannot see face to face our learners, it is really a hard time that our students so far away from classrooms and school libraries, not knowing how to get the right books into their hands. And I know you want your students to develop as readers, and this distance learning feels like a major disruption to this process. Let me share reading through e-notebook. For our guidance, I prepare an outline of the topic. But before that, let us have some fun games. This entitled Word Picture. So the mechanics of the game is I will give missing word. Then I prepare pictures as a clues. Then you will put together the clues to reveal the missing word. That will complete the phrase. Okay? If you are ready, let's start. First one is this one. Challenges in blank and learning. What do you think is the missing word? We have three pictures given as a clue. Okay? Okay, correct? The correct answer is teaching. T, chin plus G is teaching. Next. The next one is blank for teaching and learning. Okay, anyone? Uh-huh. Okay, the correct answer is opportunities. Oppo plus R plus soon plus minus commu is opportunities. Okay? The third one, let us move on to the third one. Importance of blank teaching in the new normal. So we have three clues again. Okay? So the correct answer is innovative. Correct. Okay, let's move on to the fourth one. Definition of very good reading. How about the last one? Enoch. Very good book. So this is our outline for this session. So the first one we will discuss challenges in teaching and learning, followed by the opportunities for teaching and learning. Next is the importance of innovative teaching in the new normal. Then definition of reading, and the last one is the Enoch book. So during this pandemic, this pandemic created the largest disruption of education system in human history, affecting nearly 1.6 billion learners in more than 200 countries in all over the world. So closure of schools, we all know that the institutions and other learning spaces have impacted more than 94% of the world's student population. This has brought far-reaching challenges in all aspects of our lives. And we all know that social distancing is restrictive movement. Policies have significantly disturbed traditional educational practices. Reopening of schools after relaxation or restriction is another challenge, with many new standards operating procedures put in place. Another one is several schools, colleges, and universities have discontinued face-to-face teachers. The need of the hour is to innovate and implement alternative educational system and assessment for our strategies. And we all know that this pandemic has provided us with an opportunity, not just only challenges, to pave the way for introducing digital learning. So we all know that we are using now digital learning. Lockdown and social distancing measures due to the pandemic have led to closures of schools, training institute, and higher education facilities in most countries. The online learning per se is the distance and continuing education have become a pansya for this unprecedented global pandemic, the COVID-19. Despite this, challenges posed to both educators and the learners, transitioning from traditional to face learning to online learning can be entirely different experiences for the learners and educators, and of course, which they may adapt with little or no other alternative available. So, with this, we have different challenges in teaching and learning. The first one is challenges with e learning are accessibility, the affordability, the flexibility, the learning pedagogy, the lifelong learning and educational policies, meaning many countries have substantial issues with reliable internet, especially here in the Philippines. We have poor connection. We cannot access to digital devices. While many developing countries, the economically backward children are unable to afford online learning devices, not just here in the Philippines, but the entire world. The online education poses a risk of exposure to increase screen time for the learners, because in the face to face we seldom use our digital devices, but here in online we always use our gadgets. Therefore, it has become essential for students to engage in offline activities and self explanatory learning, and the lack of parental guidance, especially for young learners, is another challenge. As both parents are working, there are practical issues around physical workspaces conducive to different ways of learning. The next one is reduce the contact hour for learners and lack of consultation with teachers when facing difficulties in learning and understanding. It is true, the level of academic performance of the students is likely to drop for the classes held for both year-end examination and internal examination because the contact hour for the teachers and the learner has reduced. The next one is student assessments are carries out online. We all know that with a lot of trial and error nowadays, uncertainty and confusion among teachers, especially students as well, and the parents. The approach adapted to conduct online examinations varies as per the convenience and expertise among the educators and the compatibility of the learners. And next one is the school time also raises social skills and awareness besides being fun for the children. Of course, there are economic, social, and psychological repercussions on the life of the student while they are away from normal schedule of schools. Many of the students have now taken online classes, which means spending additional time on virtual platforms which may have left children vulnerable to online exploitation. Diba? They are increase in unstructured time spent on online learning has exposed children to potentially harmful and violent content as well as the greater risk of cyberbullying. And the next one is the teachers are in dilemmas. We teachers are in dilemmas to whom to listen to and which tools to adopt. Of course, there are a lot of devices, applications that you can use, but there is a confusion. What is the best devices or applications to use? Some things pre-recorded videos could help. However, this would restrict interactions, of course. It is difficult to design a proper system to fit the learning needs and convenience of all the students, meaning we cannot devise a single tools or applications for just our students with 50 students, so we have different. Although, again, there have been overwhelming challenges for educators, schools, and institutes and government regarding online education from a different angle. Of course, there are still opportunities created by this pandemic. So we have first one is it has forged a strong connection, of course, between teachers and the parents. So the homeschooling secures parents to support the students, especially in their learning academically and economically. Of course, they will buy laptop if they don't have devices, internet, and etc. Children with disabilities needs additional and special support during this ongoing emergency. So it is very important that the parents should support the learning of their child. The next one is the use of online platforms are explored and tried for teaching and learning for the first time ever to continue education. So this can be explored further even after the face-to-face. We can use or we if the face-to-face is resumed, we can still use these platforms. And these platforms can provide additional resources and coaching to the learners. The next one is teachers are obliged to develop creative initiatives that assist to overcome the limitations of our virtual teaching. We all know that teachers are actively collaborating with one another at a local level to improve our online teaching methods. So there are incomparable opportunities for cooperation as well, creative solutions, and willingness to learn from others, of course. Try new tools as educators, parents, and students share similar experiences. So again, with those challenges, we still have opportunities that open while we have this pandemic COVID-19. Okay, so with that, still we have many educational organizations are offering their tools, of course, solutions for free. Microsoft, diba, for free to help and support teaching and learning in a more interactive and engaging environment. That is why we are very thankful that there are a lot of organizations that give us free tools or applications for our digital learning. And of course, the online learning has proved the opportunity to teach and learn in innovative ways, unlike the teaching and learning experiences in the normal class setting before. And as an educators, it gear with the new normal setup. In this coronavirus pandemic, this is the appropriate time, of course, to use our discomfort to forge a new paradigm. It is now the time for schools to ensure that teachers do not just translate what they do inside the classroom into their online teaching, as well as we as teachers should innovate to teach online by tapping legitimate online tools and resources. And this is what I'm going to discuss next is the importance of the innovative teaching in the new normal. Okay. The first one is by using online learning resources and topics and creating learning playlist of our menus, students would be up for an exciting learning process because our student nowadays is 21st century learners, meaning they are more on gadgets. They learn by doing they learn from their um on their own with the use of their gadgets. The next one is teachers like us are designing efficient and effective synchronous and asynchronous learning activities for continuous engagements of our students. We are doing this before face to face, but it is more we teachers are obliged to really design an efficient and effective synchronous since we cannot see our students face to face. Next is educators need to design assessment and grading system and think on their purposes and priorities. Of course, with this one, we encourage our student learning to be the best and not just let students accountable for their own learning. Mentors must think that in times of this remote learning, we continuous feedback from students on their learning can help them reflect on their students. So it is very important nowadays, the feedbacking, because through that, students would know what is the path they are going in their own learning. Okay, so reading, we all know that those trends could either be on the macro skills. So we all know that we have five essential skills, namely reading, writing, speaking, listening, and viewing. And those skills that student must have in order for him to learn all by himself, especially in nowadays that we cannot support face to face our students. We can just only give them feedback through digital online tools in our teaching. So bit for this presentation, I will not focus on the five macro skills because we will be um consuming whole day if I will given or I will present the five macro skills. So this presentations will focus only on reading. Okay, so we will define first what is the definition, simple definition of reading. So reading is making meaning from print. It also requires that we identify the words in print or what we call word recognition and construct an understanding from them or what we call comprehension and coordinate identifying words and making meaning or what we call the fluency. And reading in its fullest sense involves weaving together the word recognition and the comprehension in a fluent manner. Okay, now the big question is, I know some of you have questions in their mind. How can I teach reading and make necessary intervention in the new normal? That is the big questions that we teachers are trying to analyze nowadays. In the situation that we cannot see our student, we are dealing reading during face to face, but we can see them, give them advices, interventions, so that they could be inspired to love reading. But nowadays, we can only see them on the screen of our laptop or our devices. Okay, so I have prepared. Actually, I would like to give credits to Spark activity. So these are the options that we can do in order for us to give interventions on our students for their reading. So the first option is the first chapter Fridays. First chapter Fridays actually is an easy program. What you're going to do is for helping our student discover a wide range of reading possibilities, you just have to open a great book and read aloud the first chapter with your students 1 week. So meaning every Friday you will just open a book and then read the first chapter. Then after a few months, they have been exposed to a wonderful range of titles as well as the styles and the topics. So this is still pretty easy to do from a distance since we have the different tools that we have, and you can still record or audio clips or videos for them to listen, or even invite guests, read for them, and you can send learners over to listen or on the replay as a class activity. And then there are even quite a few first chapters already online as videos on YouTube. There are a lot of video clips. There are even quite a first chapter already on the videos. You can also use sketch note as they listen. This way you can get to see that they are taking time to listen and will help them focus. And if they keep their sketch notes in one place, they will also have another lovely list of ideas books to read next time. The next one is what we call the highlight great books in your classroom newsletter. So you are thinking newsletter, we don't have classroom or the physical classroom. We do have many applications. For example, the Canva, you can use Canva. With this newsletter, an online classroom newsletter is an easy way to promote reading throughout the year. There are a lot of different ways. You can highlight the author readings coming up, or link to a book trailer once a week, or share the top bestsellers, or share what you are reading and enjoying. Now, call the students for the book selfies. We all know that our students love Instagram, Facebook, so they can have their selfies and post it in your newsletter and publish those too. You will find an amazing set of free classroom newsletters templates available over in Canva. The next one is share the best Audible stories. Audible has created a set of free audiobooks for students over on its website. So we have a lot of applications. It could be in Google or in App Store that you can download so you can share it to your class. The next one is encourage social distance book swapping. If your students live in the same area, you might suggest to your learners and parents the possibility of swapping, of course, with the proper guidance or the proper protocol. So they still need to follow the health protocols for their own safety. So the safety of our parents and students is still our priority nowadays in this pandemic. The next one is become a pro guide to local library ebooks. This one is the time to become certifiable pro in whatever ebook and audiobook resources. So the third options is you will just identify the best applications that your student would use. And in this option for the fifth one is you will try to guide them on how they could install, how they will operate the applications that they will install. And the last one is make a drop off run. There are students in your class. We all know that with the accessibility, not all our students have the connection. Some students could not reach out, or they don't have the access to the internet. So you can still print postcards so that no students will left behind. So you can print postcards for them and write them in a quick note to say hello, that you are thinking of them and that you are wanted to loan for them to read from your class library. So these are the six options that I think would help you. I hope this list would be helpful to all of us in this time of pandemic. Okay, now another question is how could be this book can keep our pandemic stress away. Okay, so the first one, it gives reading gives us the chance to end the day on a positive note, no matter how it goes. So no matter how negative the world is, we need to end our day with a positive smile in our face so that we could move on. We could look up to another day full of positive vibes in our lives. The next one is reading stories, especially fantasy, is a social vaccination against all the restrictions because they help children find a way to exit what COVID-19 out in the play. So it helped the students or our parents to somewhat forget what is happening in our world nowadays. Okay, now let me share. So, as I have mentioned earlier, as upon searching for a reading program, interventions, innovation that would help my students, so I came across with these audiobooks. There are a lot of research work or presentations about this audiobook, and I was very amazed and excited to share this to my students. As a background, I teach grade 7 students in junior high school. So if we could think of their background, most of the students in our grade 7 here, especially in the Philippines, is somewhat cannot, there is really a difficult for them to read. And since we are using online tools in our teaching to continue learning despite the pandemic, and during our face-to-face, we always encourage our students to get a book and then read on their most comfortable place. This is why I named my reading innovations as an e-notebook, which means electronic place to read a book. So I will introduce to you e-notebook. Okay, e-notebook is simply an e-book digital magazine or newspapers that can be read on a smartphone, a tablet device, or your Nook ebook reader. So we have here sample Enoch book that would introduce or that you could introduce to your students. Okay, the first one is what we call the Hopla. Hopla, it is a great collection of audiobooks along with ebooks, comics, and movies and music. You can tell your students to download this, and it is really easy for them to install and operate. The next one is the LibraryVox. LibraryVox, it has a huge collection of free audiobooks in the public domain read by volunteers across the globe. The next one is the Loyal Books. It has a wide collection of free audiobooks in the public domain. The next one is what we call the Overdrive. Overdrive is another audiobook up to use through your library. Again, there are audiobooks that free or there are other audiobook that need subscriptions. Then next one is the Audible. This is a paid audiobook subscription, so it is not free. So you need to subscribe. The next one is the audiobooks.com. It is a collection, is sorted into net categories. Next one is the Downpour. It is an audiobook rental service. Again, we have free, we have with subscriptions. Stories boasts a library over 100 titles and has sweet daily deals. Next is the Libro FM. The Libro FM is for the audiobook reader who wants to support their independent bookstores. The Scrib. I know that you are all familiar with this. The collection is smaller than the most, something like 30,000 audiobook. And the last one is the Epic Free. It is an awesome app for researching, reading fluency, comprehension quizzes, writing, educational videos, school reading badges, and printable resources. Again, there are a lot of applications tools that you can introduce to your students, but make sure that you would be a pro guide for them so that it would be easily for them to install and operate the system. It is much better also if you could give them specific applications that you will use in your class. Again, the prolonged unavailability of the physical book due to COVID-19 lockdown has led to an uptake of ebooks and audiobook. That is why we usually use audiobook and ebooks because we cannot go in our library, school library to get books or buy because we have this what we call the pandemic. And we want our students to really embrace reading, love reading, especially during this pandemic because again, it is a social vaccination. Especially if they are reading fantasy stories that would uplift their mental capacity or their mental state as of now because even young children, adults have depression on this pandemic because especially here in the Philippines, there is what we call the lockdown. We cannot go out. Just you can stay in your room or in your house. So it is our chance to introduce these applications or these tools for them to help um, to ease their difficulties, improve their difficulties, especially in reading. So audiobooks are a new way, again, to enter the world of reading. And it is also a way to improve our learning skills, given the present context of the global confinement. And the audiobook seems very useful and rewarding. Of course, we cannot replace the physical book, but as of now that we cannot meet our students, we need to devise in improvise, innovate some interventions for them to help, because it is very alarming that nowadays our students have a lot of reading difficulties. Again, according to UNESCO Chair on Health Education and Sustainable Development, Ma'am Presco Pitticelli, who co-authored a 2020 study on the link between reading children's literature and well-being, he quoted, "Kids who listen to books can be extraordinary readers." With that, thank you for listening. I hope you get something from me, and keep safe, everyone.
Well, Miss Joy, that was an awesome presentation. And I love what you just said. Reading is a vaccine. So, to protect your mental health, I guess not only for our students, but ourselves, we have to embrace and love reading. And I've also read that reading actually reduces stress 68%. So I think that a lot of us are struggling with the crisis that we have now, and we can start reading as well personally. And I myself, as a teacher, have been really struggling um, promoting reading to my students and motivating them. And the apps that you have introduced us will surely greatly help me. And I think our attendees as well. So thank you so very much for that, Miss April Joy.
Thank you, Ma'am Sarah.
Yes. All right. So before I welcome the next speaker for today, again, I am asking everyone to please keep on commenting, and I think this topic is very helpful for all of us. So there, let's go viral. Let's make this webinar viral. All right. So the next speaker for today will be. Again, thank you so much, Miss Joy. Our our next speaker for today is. Let's welcome our second speaker, Miss Sunshine Hatan from the Philippines.
Thank you, Ma'am Sarah, for that
You're welcome.
introduction. Good morning again, world. Once again, I'm Teacher Shine from the Philippines. So today's topic will focus on the reading innovation as what Teacher April already introduces one technique and innovation this new normal. So I'm going to share my screen to you guys. So wait for a moment. Okay, I'm sharing it now. Here. Then sorry. Why is my slides on that one na? Sorry for the delay.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, the PPT is not working great.
Okay, while we're waiting for Miss Sunshine, I'll just give you a
Oh my
short
god, what
trivia.
happened?
Some trivia about. It's okay, Miss Sunshine. Take your time while I'm giving trivia for
Okay.
our attendees. Don't you know that the country that reads the most is India, with the average Indian reading 10.7 hours a week. Wow, that's awesome. Another trivia is, do you know, guys, what's the most read book in the world? Time. in the comment section, but I can't see it. Let me check. There are actually three most read Bibles. Oh, I said the answer already. Most read books. And I'll check our Facebook. If some of you are typing your answers. Yes, they are the Bible, quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung, I don't know how to pronounce it, and Harry Potter. Have you read all of this? Oh, today is Sunday. Okay, I will try to check our Facebook group. Is it okay, Miss
Okay, I
Sunshine?
think it's ready now.
All right.
Technical problem.
Okay na.
Okay.
Yeah, technical problem. It happens all the time.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see your desktop screen.
Okay, there we are. Here we go.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so do you guys see my slides now? Clear? So let's start. So another innovation, this new normal. For another innovation, this new normal. Okay, but before that, let's start our schema by going back to the definition of reading. Reading is a process of looking out a series of written symbols and getting meaning from them, while innovation is a process by which the mind is renewed and brought to date by applying new process, introducing new techniques, or establishing success ideas to create new value. These two, we have the reading innovation is normal. So, combining the reading innovation, this pandemic, we I'm sorry if you hear my voice. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay, going back to that, combining reading and innovation was created. This pandemic strikes school year 2019-2020 all over the world, and we teachers already implemented no face-to-face teaching. At this point, language teachers as me need to work on creating new techniques to teach students reading and reading comprehension. Here in the Philippines, reading and reading comprehension is one of the major problems that teachers need to face and conquer every year. The challenge is doubled by how we are going to teach reading comprehension this new normal. So the question is, why are students failing behind reading? Okay, so why? There are many reasons as why students are failing behind in reading, okay, according to Bridging Literary Achievement Gap, grades 4 to 12, the family income and reading achievements are closely linked. From the study of Strickland and Averman, year 2004, poor students are more likely to become poorer readers than children from high income families. Families with low income may not be able to afford books and educational games for their children to practice with at home. So every year, there are countless amounts of students who struggle to read in their grade level. And every year, those students advance to the next grade with too little improvements to their reading comprehension. Soon, their low reading achievement in all their subjects, and they began to lose hope. Their teachers have done what they can do to help or give attention they need. So the question is, how can we help this student improve their reading comprehension when we face this problem in the new normal setup? The number one, no face-to-face assessment for reading. Number two, no one-on-one teaching is allowed. So you're not allowed to go to class and meet your students. You are also not allowed to conduct your remediation classes or free tutorial for your students who fall behind reading, and the monitoring of comprehension school scores and modular setups are not reliable, since we do not know if who and when did they compose these modules. We all know internet nowadays are free. So we created the reading buddies or the buddies system. So what is a buddy? Buddy is someone who provides a friendly help to someone. Okay, then first the slide. A reading buddy. A reading buddy is a program which is flexible, complex, that easily adjusts to the resources and needs of your school, your students, or any other English language learning organization you are involved with. Reading buddies or reading partner or peer reading programs are all present before the pandemic became the global problem. Thus, we are now in the new normal setup of education where these programs are not allowed, for it requires face-to-face interactions for our students. So let's go back and take a look at the pair innovation before the new normal. So we have the elbow, knee to knee. If you will remember, in our school we are paired with our classmates to read and together, sitting elbow, knee to knee. Okay, the reading buddies is a different way. It's a pandemic innovation. The real reading can be carried out using na- number of different partnership, teachers, pupil, parent to child, more advanced peer, and skill developed children. So how are we going to do that? We can have a chatmate, a callmate, or a textmate buddy. Because pandemic cannot stop me from creating good relationships and my students. Friendship in the pandemic era might be a dream for students. They started grade 7 not knowing their classmates personally, which makes me feel sad for them. I myself, way back in high school, created bond with my classmates, schoolmates, teachers, which I treasure until these days. Through this innovation, we can help not only in improving their reading and comprehensions, we are also building good relationship that might last as they grow old. So, who would not love to reminisce high schools with their best friends? This peculiar experience of having virtual buddy will be the one that makes their experience more special. So, how will we do that? The teachers can pair low fluency and comprehension readers to the high fluency and comprehension readers. By what means? By means of a pre-test result, a field era result from the last year or the previous school year, the reading competency report from the previous language teachers, which we do every year as educators. Okay, so what to use as means of communication? Online media platform, Facebook Messengers, Google Meet, and Zoom. We can also have cellular phones for text message and phone calls. Next one. So again, we can pair low fluency comprehension readers to high fluency comprehension readers, and we call them the pandemic buddies. They will work virtually through social media instead of group or a large face-to-face class. So there will be a less social pressure and embarrassment over these fluencies. So I have here the illustration of a reading buddy. As you can see, I illustrate the body, which is the bigger one or the most knowledgeable one, or the one to render help to the small body, the body in the small letters, the one who needs a reading partner or help rendered from a more knowledgeable body. So, what are the advantage of this body system? So let's start with the advantage of the body system to the body, the smaller body. So reading with body can offer low pressure to practice their skills. For students who need extra support in developing reading fluency, this strategy facilitates practice. Practice makes reading a natural way to practice their skills. The next one, dialogue can be much more natural to read aloud with partners. Okay, the next one, receive the one-on-one support. One-on-one setting will still allow them to receive feedbacks and model reading accuracy, speed, and expression. Also foster a lab of reading. Student who lacks skills or self-confidence in reading has kept them from developing interest in book. Reading buddy program help re-engage the students to enjoy the reading and learning. The next one, how about the bigger body? If it is advantage to the one who you are helping, how is the program advantageous to the one who is helping? So for the bigger body, it builds confidence. Supporting their body provides them with a chance to feel confident as readers in a less intimidating environment. It naturally builds confidence when they know someone is looking up to them, both academically and socially, because their body view them as their role models and are all of them, they build confidence. Next one, they act as mentors. They are forced to model positive characters, traits, and responsible behaviors during the designated time and program, and it naturally rewards them for good behavior and having someone to look up rather than focusing on the negative behavior. The next one, they practice leadership skills. For they lead the success of their body, they become devoted to the task given to them. So it also improves his or her own communication and instructional skills by assuming the role of the teacher. Next one, how is the body system program be beneficial for the both big body and the smaller body? So it practice authentic reading. They practice lifelong skills in an authentic way. They learn leadership, patience, and problem solving strategies while working with their buddies. Learning the text or the story with someone to discuss create a higher retention and learning than reading it alone or studying it alone. That's Howard Gardner learning by doing, if you could remember. It also engaged them in meaningful discussion about the text. Reading in a buddy system virtually will develop interaction much better than spending their day talking about silly things in a social media or in the group chat they are on. Why not talk about a story a teacher gave them to study for a week? Okay, so it develops their social skills. So how to start? So this is how we start the program. Establishing a routine for students to adapt so that they can know the step-by-step requirement for engaging and learning with their buddies. Will they read it out loud simultaneously? Will they take turns while each person reading paragraph page? Will one read while the others listen? So we need to clarify these instances for our students before starting the program. So we need also to teach the students an error correction procedure to use when they are supporting their partner or their buddies. Before beginning buddy system reading activities, educators can hold class discussion about positive way to support and correct classmates. So example of these rules are no interrupting and be respectful. You can also suggest a phrase. You might want to try this to tell to their buddies, or this is pronounced as this one, as opposed to that you're wrong when they are correcting their buddies. Setting up rules for positive feedback from the outset help make partners reading and safe space for struggling readers. So, offer feedback and praise frequently for correct reading. We need to emphasize this to the bigger body or the body who is giving help to the smaller body. Quietly praise often while your partner is reading. You don't want your voice to dominate the story. If you're listening to them on their on virtually, just be quiet and reassure that they're doing it well. You can use symbols like you put your hands up, correct, like that. Mm. And it could be assurance that they are doing good in reading. Next one, monitor the support students as they work. So the body needs to have a journal to pass to the teachers. And we will have the conference later. The body have their own conference at the end of the week. The smaller body also got their conference with the teachers after a week. So you could go back to what happened in their meet together. So in the picture you can see there is a child says she is stuck in a word and I'll count four and then help her. That's one of the example of a report a child can give a teacher. Okay. It's important for our children not to just to read to finish the story, but be able to recall what they have read. So how can we teach comprehension? So the body acts as a teacher to his body. So what is the role of the body? The body needs to ask a variety of questions, which starts with a simple detail. For example, the elements of the story one by one. The body will ask the elements of the story by where does the story happen, something like that, or the setting happens. Start it simple. The next one, the next role of the body is after reading, ask the body to retell the story. What happened to the beginning of the story? What happened to the middle or to the end? In that way, the body could check if the smaller body who always rendering when getting rendered help really understood the story. Next one, the role of the body also is to give question that deepen the connection and the material read. So how can that be? So they could ask, describe the main character, each of them. What can you say about the setting of the story? Is there any problem and the solution? Can you describe the problem and the solution? Can you describe the plot? If it were you, what will you do? Something like that. Those questions will deepen the connection of the body to the story because through that experience of connecting the story to the story, the learning becomes authentic for them, which silently they are not aware that they are learning how to learn, and at the end of the year, they will be an independent learners. So I will leave you with a quote. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will live its own life believing that it's stupid. So we have to inculcate in our students that we are all good in different things. Being a good reader doesn't make you better than someone who struggles with reading. The body system will help the students understand each other's weaknesses and help each other to reach the ultimate goal and for them to become readers. So let's try to be a body. Okay, guys. So I will give you time to be a body or that's someone who needs help. So try to read this one. Try to be a student who is struggling to read a story. So let's try. You can type your answers at the chat box. Okay. I think some of you done great in reading this one. Ah, okay. Yeah. So I will give you now the answer. Look at me, shouted Bethan. She did a leap frog over Gary. She did a leap frog over Peter. Now I am going to do a leapfrog over an elephant. Elephant, she laughed. Not yet, said Gary. It's my turn. You could be the elephant and I will be the giant frog and leap right over you. So very good. You did read the passage. Another game. Ah, you are all familiar with the four picks one word. So this game is related to the topic we just discussed. I will give you 5 seconds. Four, three, two, one. Toot. The answer is book. Next one. Okay. Another 5 seconds. The clock starts at five, four, three, two, one. Ding! The answer is educator or teacher. Next one. Look at the picture. What do you think will happen next? So you have to choose from A or B. And okay, the answer is B because as you can see the first picture, a cat. Oh my God, it's wrong. Sorry. Look at the picture again. So what do you think this man or this child is doing? What will happen next? Three, two, one. Okay, the answer is he will put on his shoe. Another one. Which could happen in real life? Okay, it's B. Of course, a polar bear cannot go fishing. It needs to get the fish on its own. Okay, thank you so much for listening. I hope um I hope guys you learn something from me and you can also use my reading buddies as one of your innovations this new normal.
That's good. Uh, okay, thank you very much, Miss Shine. Okay, that was another awesome presentation, and for sure, a lot of us will be adapting the strategies that you have just introduced us. I like the term virtual buddies. I do have lots of friends online, but then we never read together. And I think I'm going to promote
Yeah.
this to my friends as well. So we're going to read a book and
Oh,
then
thank
discuss.
you.
Yeah. So not only for our learners, but it's
Yes.
also good to do it for ourselves as well. So here we no
Yes.
longer we don't only promote reading and improve the skills of our students in reading, but we are also improving their social skills, as you have discussed. That there is an interaction, and then our students are forced to bring out the creativity in them, and at the same time improving their critical thinking. And that was really, really brilliant. I'm already imagining doing this with my students soon. Thank you very much. Before we
Thank
welcome the
you.
last speaker, yes, thank you so much again, Miss Sunshine. Right, before calling for the last speaker, again, I would like to ask everyone to keep on sharing. This webinar is really helpful and it's going to be really helpful. They can catch up with our last speaker, even if they miss the two, so they can just revisit our last two speakers. So, okay. Also, um, what is going to happen next? Oh, I got so excited with the presentations. Now, we are also going to have a quiz competition after the last speaker. So I'd like you to please stay tuned for a chance of winning a quiz champion certificate. The question and answer portion will be done after the quiz show. So just keep your questions coming and we'll ask as many as we can so we can learn together. Now, I would like to welcome our last speaker, Mr. Mike Damaso, to further talk about reading interventions during pandemic. Welcome, Mr. Mike. I'm very hyped with this webinar. Welcome.
Hi.
Hello, Mr. Mike.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. So thank you so much. So hi, greetings. I am Mike Damaso, a Filipino teacher and today's guest speaker on comic strips. And I just wanted to thank you for giving the board opportunity to be one of your speakers. I am thrilled and honored to be part of the Institute. And I hope that the information I share with you today will be useful in our future teaching careers. Okay, so part of my presentation will teach us about the details of the comic strip. It will also help us to determine the topic's goals. We will also learn about the importance, benefits, and application of comic strips in the development of various learners' reading skills, as well as brief history of the comic strip. It's also important for us to have ideas how to make a comic strip, as well as the principles of making a comic. So, of course, we'll go over comic strips tips and have a quick discussion about the evidence of successful comic strip use in the development of reading skills. Okay, our goal is to gain a better understanding of the importance of comic strips in the development of learners' reading skills. And we will become acquainted with the technical and general knowledge associated with the creation of comic strips, including tips, history, and design principles. And we will attempt to create a simple comic strip afterwards. So now let's proceed on with, let's talk about the benefits. So let me also have a quick discussion with each learner about the benefits and the drawbacks of comic strips. So comic strips turns most hesitant readers into voracious readers. So one of the best and most obvious advantage of comic strip is that they can be more entertaining and easier to read than the traditional books. This can be very appealing to young children who would otherwise be uninterested in the traditional forms of books. Many children who believe that they dislike reading respond particularly well to the comic strips, books based on their favorite movies or television shows such as like Scooby-Doo and or it's either Astro Boy. Next is that comic strips instill confidence in struggling readers. So an overwhelming page of a text in a comic does not intimidate struggling readers. They typically provide short, easy to read sentences as well as other visual and other textual cues that is character size, do- door slams, or etc. for context. They can also help children with learning disabilities. For example, children with autism can learn about identifying emotions from the images in a comic book. Then children with dyslexia, for example, who may find it difficult to complete a page in a traditional book, often feel a sense of accomplishment when they finish a page in a comic book. And as many of us are aware, achievement, of course, is an important in developing confidence or confident in fluent readers. And that comic strips help your students make more inferences. So seeing, of course, something happen is referred to as an observation. So inference is the process of determining something based on the evidence and reasoning. It is an essential component of successful comprehension, a valuable life skill for all young children to learn. Young children's inferences can be increased by encouraging them to read between the lines and infer meaning from the images in comic books. And children who read comics books must frequently infer what is not written by the narrator, and which is a difficult reading strategy. Children also can benefit from comic books in terms of learning to sequence events and comprehend concise language. The next to it is the learners vocabulary is expanded by the comic strips. So when most people think of comic books, they probably don't consider the repository of words used on each page, and or the opportunity they provide to improve vocabulary skills. Comic books provide children with unique opportunity to learn new vocabulary in conjunction with context cues, which are information from pictures or other text cues that help learners or children decipher the meaning of unfamiliar words. And then other learning disciplines can benefit from the addition of comic strips. So other disciplines can, of course, benefit from the addition of comic strips. Comic books that explore or touch on historical events, classic tales, Wildlife, nature, positive reactions, relationships, and other topics can be an excellent supplement, of course, to other areas of studies. If your learners or child is studying the ancient, for example, Egyptians, a comic book story is set in ancient Egypt may use illustrations to explain important details such as clothing, food, rituals, farming, construction, trade, commerce, and cultural and social trades. Many children obtain the big picture more easily and enthusiastically by combining words and illustrations than they would by using traditional textbooks alone. And then comic strips comes in a variety of comic book genres to appeal to a wide range of tastes. Okay, so comic books are about more than just superheroes and villains. They're not just for boys either. Comic books and graphics novels cover a wide range of genres, including, of course, comedy, drama, science, fiction, and fantasy. And and there is sure to be something to suit all tastes, ages, and reading levels. And there might even be something you'd like to get into or enjoy with your child before bedtime. So, just like what we're doing with our students or our children. Okay, so in these times of pandemic, comic strips are always available anywhere, online or offline. Learners and adults can always access comic strips. So this pandemic has presented us with numerous educational challenges. Our previous year, 2020, saw a large of number of schools around the world and universities closed due to pandemic. And we have online or modular modalities. And those challenges taught us a variety of valuable lessons. Few people also use comic strips to relieve the anxiety and stress caused by today's situation. Okay, so today it is very critical that the messages can be easily understood by the learners through the use of few illustrations and dialogue. They might also enjoy the cartoonist, catchy drawing and colorful and creative expression. A comic strip is one of the visual tool for, of course, conveying a message, just like what we have in the presentation. Okay, next is that one of the best or the obvious benefits of comic books is that they are often more fun and familiar to read than standard books. This appeals to young children who would otherwise be uninterested in traditional books formats and can also be applied to adult learners. Many children who dislike reading find comic books to be particularly appealing. And then of course, this information is correct. Comic strips and cartoons are two effective instructional tools that can be used in class with students of all ages. They are effective because they engage students in meaningful learning experience that allow them to practice key skills like writing, reading, speaking, and communicating. Comic strips allows them to practice key skills such as the what we have uh, stated. So skills such as writing due to the dialogue making activities, reading in conjunction with the visuals they are seeing, speaking activities associated with comics reading, and communication due to the two-way communication of the characters in the script or dialogue of the comic strip. And now let's move on with the history of the comic strip. Okay, so let me just give you a quick rundown of a comic strip from the beginning to the present. Okay, so we might see in the timeline the different dates, yeah, right? So the origins can be traced all the way back to the 17th century when the printing press was established. The name cartoons was coined in the 1840s to characterize the satirical drawings that were becoming increasingly popular and appearing in newspapers and publications. It was at this point that the concept of cartoons was born. And then Alice Sloofer's Half Holiday was the first specialized cartoons with a recurrent character. So published in Jodie, a British satirical magazine in 1867 with the publication of Glasgow Looking Glass in the 19th century, which is often recognized as the earliest comic strip in history. In 1938, Adventure Comics #1 launched with the superhero known as Superhero in its cover. These milestones completely changed the course and direction of the comic books forever. And in May 1939, another genre-defining character, Batman, so one of our favorite characters, was introduced in Detective Comics #27, which was also considered to be the golden age of comics. And in the years 1956 to 1970, the mid 50s, with the introduction of Green Lantern, the Atom, and Hawkman. A sophisticated plot with a lot of characterization is required in this era. And then the Bronze Age of comics lasted from 1970 to 1985. The Barbarian was formed with the resurrection of the X-Men. Okay, so the world of comics has transformed as a result of new business strategies and distribution networks. Okay, so at the present moment, comic strips can be now seen in almost every newspaper and many periodicals. They are usually being published in black and white, in the Philippines in Monday through Saturday newspapers editions, and in color Sunday editions. They can also be found in any website that features comics as a kind of content. So that would be the timeline of comic history, just a short timeline of comic history. And now, what is comic strip? Okay, so as I said that a little while ago, that there are different benefits from comic strip. Now, so let us have the significant idea of the comic strip. A series of adjacent drawn images, usually horizontally, intended to be read as a narrative or chronological sequence. In this format, the story is usually unique. Words may be introduced within or near each image, or they may be omitted entirely. If the image is functionally dominated by words, it is reduced to a mere illustration for a text. So in newspapers and magazines, with daily horizontal strips in black and white newspapers, with and longer sequence and special color comic sections in Sunday papers. With the advent of the internet, online comic strips known as web comics began to appear nowadays. A cartoonist is what we call an artist who writes and draws comic strips. And then strips are frequently humorous. And as the term comic implies, using a series of or pictures to tell a story existed throughout history. As I said, that it was began in the early 1700s. And now, let's move on with how we're going to create a comics. So let's take a look at the design principles in comic strips. So the process and some ideas on how anyone can make comics now. I just wanted to offer a few more details of those of our participants who wanted to create a simple comic strip using a variety of different applications, modern applications for our computer or cell phones, or for our tablets, or the old-fashioned manners, just like using the pen and paper, or drawing pencil or paper. So everyone should gain a sense of how our hands can create something unexpected. I understand that we can draw whatever we like, including fundamental trees, basic trees, animals, and nature. But a cartoonist has a standard that we can learn and identify so that we can process ourselves as a cartoonist or people who enjoy producing comics. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So these are the top design principles for comic book artists to understand. We can, of course, use what we don't understand. One of them says that different artists. So it says it's critical to consider animations, fundamentals, principles, which are based on features that are so deeply ingrained in this medium. So the different things that they can be avoided must always be remembered. So first is the analogy as foundation. Okay. So analogy establishes in this illustration the starting point for story logic. This fundamental correspondence between the things is in fact the foundation upon which an entire animated project can be built. All of this changes when we use a solid analogy as our foundation. If we make a film about the frustrated puppet, just like in the illustration, the logical villain could be a puppeteer, and the puppet can tangle strings to demonstrate his rebellion. As you see in the given feature, it first started with a man using a computer, and turns out that he is being controlled by the puppeteer. Turns out that there is again another story happened, and you can see the logic and analogy of the story just by observing the sequence of illustration. So a solid foundation analogy can guide decisions about every aspect of your project in a comic strip in this way, making the developmental process easier while also ensuring that the final piece has both coherence and internal logic. Okay, so let's go over with the another principle, which is the movement. Okay, so from the given example illustration, there is what we call making movements. So movements should be used for important communication. So there is a lot of meaning in the dialogue in here, but very little in action. Where there is a lot of meaning in the action and the effects, as well as the information in the dialogue. So use movement to communicate information that the audience cannot afford to miss, whether with or without dialogue, then present it in such a way that the audience will not want to look away. For example, as you can see in the image, the first box is an illustration of an eye. Then it turns out that it was a creature with one eye holding a knife, and the next image shows that it is just slicing a cake and was being held by a man through his hands, and that the transition came out at as that it was just in a magazine being viewed by a woman, and that the woman was only in the television, and broadens seeing the view as a result. And the movement in the comic strip tells about various movements and sequences, as you see in the illustration. A next principle is the caricature, simplify and exaggerate. So the basic rule of caricature is to eliminate unimportant features while exaggerating those that remain. In fact, as long as you've identified the distinguishing features correctly, you can reduce them to the most basic rendering, just like in the image. Those small eyes reduced to dots, curly hair reduced to a simple line, and the subject will still read clearly. So another principle is the animation. So let's talk about the animation in the illustration given. So it has no bounds and will take as far as our imaginations and mastery of the craft will allow. So we use for critical communications, fantasy is most effective, just like in this illustration or the comic strip. So when animation accomplishes something that live action cannot, it has a greater impact. In this case, fantasy plays an important role. So however, fantasy can only accomplish if this is woven into fabric of your idea rather than tack on as an afterthought. Take note of how everything in this scene, please observe and see the image. It is predicated on a single key fantasy element. It an elephant's extra long track. It's both it's we might notice that it is both creative and funny as well, as you can see. So the comic illustration has a lovely side to it. And another principles that we have is we have to create a universe in our illustrations. Okay, so with this one, we create an action and visuals rather than recording them. And because nothing is predetermined in animations, every element of this universe, large and small, as you see in the illustration, must be defined by you, the creator of the comic strips or the cartoonist. It is worth noting that the projected movement, whether recorded or created, is an illusion, and of itself the only place the movement exists in the viewer's mind. And also, while our worlds are entirely flexible, at first, we must eventually investigate our chosen attributes in order to create a coherent, believable production in a comic strip. Examine the three comic strips. Each has a sequence that tells you how big the place on it. It has a universe and has an alternate universe. The first image appears to depict some ant people, right? In a small space, while the second depicts a community, and the third illustration depicts them being observed or used as a pattern by an animated person who appears to be sketching a group of ants. This appears to be amusing but intriguing, right? Okay. So, communication is present in all aspects of the animation production in a comic strip. Even a comic strip with no dialogue contains visual communication. It appears that this is such an informative idea in communication. As in real life, we tend to have gestures that involve a two-way communication process. What's more, if the details of the dialogues are involved in a brief manner, it is possible to have complete ideas in a comic strip. So let's move on. Okay, so with this illustration, you could see how the story of the fish out of the water has something to do with the situation. It tells something of a hidden worlds that have several advantages built in it. By focusing on non-human characters, they automatically encourage fantasy. They allow us to see our world from a different perspective. They frequently include built-in analogies. They also elicit fanciful, unexpected action. And then a small fish in a large bowl has a very different storyline implications than a large fish in a small bowl. Every aspect of your production in a comic strip is affected by the relationship between the detailed and the message. Okay, so let me just fix my presentation. Okay, so we will be having our game. It is entitled "Use Your Own Dialogue" to the different images, to the different illustrations. Okay. Okay, so with this game, you are going to choose what you believe is girl's correct response in the illustration. So now let's guess what is the dialogue all about in the illustration. So I will give you a time frame of 5 seconds in order for you to come up with your answers. Okay, so the time starts now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So the girl's correct response is that I'm hungry and I'd like to eat my biscuit from my backpack. And the boy's response, I just want to sit here and watch them perform. Okay, so that is the correct response. So there's no wrong answers, definitely, because it's just a guess game. Okay, so now next. So let us all see this another example illustration or of a comic strip. Choose what you believe is the correct response of the girl. A. Greg, where have my car keys gone? B. Please do not inform my friend that I am inside the house. And for the girl's response, choose what you believe is the correct. Oh, sorry, it was in your old pants you wore yesterday. Or B. I won't tell anyone unless you give me my keys. So let's see. Oh, the girl said, please do not inform my friend that I am inside the house. And the boy said, I won't tell anyone unless you give me my keys. Oh, what are the storyline all about? So it's all about the key of a car. So next, let us have this one, another guess game. Choose what you believe is the correct response of the dog owner. A. Fido, please come in and eat your meal right now. B. You will not eat your snack unless you tell me about the ball snafu. For the dog response, I'm sorry, arf arf, but I need to eat before I tell you, arf arf. Or letter B, but does not mean defecate my interest. So what do you think is the response? I will give you 5 seconds. One, two, three, four, and five. Okay, you will not eat your snack unless you tell me about the ball snafu. And then the dog said, but that does not pique my interest. Okay, so that is quite interesting and as well as very, enjoyable and fun. So let's take a look at this illustration for the principles for production in a comic strip. Words take on a commanding position when we begin with dialogue. So we tend to wrap the action around the words with this method, the limiting the amount of action and adjusting the phase so that it does not interfere what is being said. What we see in the comic strip is a conversation between the two characters, ostensibly the B characters as we see in the illustration. So that gives ideas on how they are communicating about the meal that is in front of them. By reading the lines and observing the views of each comic strip animation, the sequence, you can imagine the setting of the story. They are, even if it has no background, I think they are in the restaurant or a dining area of their house. Okay, so another principles is that we have to focus with the different characters in the comic strip. So we can see how real materials are transformed into something usable in the world of comics. It's extremely useful in the creation of the comic strip. So characters can be, of course, imaginable element, real or imagined. It's the most effective when it goes beyond the realms of reality, and the use of fictitious characters can make even the most ominous subject matter more bearable with the different characters in the comic strip. We can make use of the different things just like this one and make it this a character in a comic strip, which is began to be a drawing or animation. Then in this PowerPoint slide, we can see how reversing core characteristics creates characters with an inner conflict or unexpected strength. As an example, in the illustration is a genie, which is very afraid of rabbits, and animated animals are afraid of man holding a farming tool. So to avoid a character type, try giving the character a contradiction such as reversing a core characteristics uh, can result in a characteristics with inner conflict or unexpected strength. So just like what you see in the sample illustration, the genie and the rabbit. So the expression of personality and animation is not limited by realism. So, and the character design and style, characters can be created in any way that you want, of course. Characters in a given project, on the other hand, must appear to be from the same universe or the same style. All of the characters in a single comic strip should be from the same world. For example, if the characters are futuristic, uh, where it is a requirement, we should stick with that futuristic character. Aside from that, we must avoid confusing our readers in our comic strip because it has different or various types of characters. Okay, so another ideas I need to input with you is that when designing characters, keep in mind that the eyes, the mouth, and the hands are the primary concepts or conveyors of expression. So keep these elements clear, readable, and easy for the audience or readers to find. Each style is distinguished by its own set of characters. When characters of varying styles are placed near the center of the continuum, they can coexist convincingly. And we can identify the different emotions from the characters over and over, and because the primary conveyors of expressions are of course, the eyes, the mouth, and the hands. Okay, so A character's design influences its ability to move also. So a body map is required for object characters, which searches for elements in an object's structure that resemble with the bodies of living creatures. For example, we have a chair. Could be a character with mouth, eyes, and hands. And that's all there it is to it. We enjoy seeing how imaginative and animated the characters are in the comic strip. Okay, so this is the first frame of reference you will use when dealing with object characters. So using it as a foundation for your decisions will automatically make your objects feel more real. So we must, of course, mix and match the characters in the sample image of a horse and a lady from the realistic continuum to its graphic identity without mismatching. If it's a realistic drawing, it must be connected to a graphic drawing. The principle in creating a character in a comic strip is that the characters should match and not mismatch the characters, just like what you see in the given example illustration. And then for the framing, camera angles should never be chosen for their own sake, but rather to serve the needs of the content. The frame must explain why it exists, just like in the illustration that you are viewing. Okay, so communication, of course, must be supported by framing. Okay, dialogue is best when used sparingly. When planning a dialogue, consider how few words you can use to convey your message and not that long. The words themselves are only one component of a much larger communication system. And as an example in the comic strip, a ladies or we see how UFOs in the example affected the characters. And there is a much larger system of communication in the strips. And this looks intriguing, and it makes me wonder what will happen next, as you see in the given example illustration or comic strip, or the sequence of the different images in here. Okay, so sometimes silence or near silence is more effective than sound. In this comic strip, we might identify that the bands in the upper image has words of different musical instruments like honk, tweet, honk, bop, bop, bop. And then the other image of a band has no words that expresses the sound of a musical instruments. We could really identify the silence. Yes. Yes, of course. In the other image, because there are no sound, words that expresses about it. It gives me the ideas that I think it is more effective. Then when it with this one, there are character emotion expression, expressing character emotions. The ability of characters to express emotion is a critical issue in animation or comic strip. And then the gesture in the dialogue should support but can also enhance dialogue. Gesture's primary function is to support dialogue, of course, and it should reinforce its meaning. And in animation or comic strip, uh, character interaction can refer to human, human to object to object interactions, and so on and so forth. We could really identify how the character emotion expression, gesture, and dialogue and character interaction all relate to form a good characterization in a comic strip. Okay, so with the backgrounds in meaning, in communication, backgrounds can play a distinct an active role. They can also communicate on their own without the need for any dialogue or action. Backgrounds can even reveal a character's personality, just like what you see in the given example image. So as you can see in the comic strip, I believe that the characters in here, I hope so that you also have that idea that the characters are, I think they are chaotic or messy, a character who was lost in life and didn't really care about his place. Or perhaps the place was in a war situation, or I think, which is why the walls are cracked in the illustration. The furniture is disorganized and things are out of place. So you can really identify the character or the traits of the character in a comic strip just by seeing the different backgrounds. of the illustration or the comic strip. Backgrounds plays an important role in establishing mood. In this case, the importance of style cannot be overstated. The illustration, we can tell which character in the story, what stage of life they are in, and what time it is by looking at the shadows, just like in the given example, as shown in the picture number 5. I believe that the character is wealthy or well organized, and that the scene is set in the morning and during the Christmas season due to the presence of a Christmas tree in the illustration. This looks very interesting to me, and I hope that you enjoy it as you are observing the different comic strips in the given example image. So the placement of elements within a background has an impact on communication. When used correctly, the placement of elements can even transform backgrounds into supporting characters who play surprisingly important roles. As an example, we can see that the character is walking to a location and the background plays a supporting role. Please keep in mind that this is the only one image. What was going to happen next? Let us see what you can come up with. Of course, we can see trees, background trees, and I think that the character is in a cave and then approaching to a bridge. So uh, rather than that, so we have going to identify the special effects. So we're in all special effects require some level of stylization. Beyond simply setting the mood, special effects can play a variety of roles. In the image, the special effects of different lines, symbolism, an animated tornado, grabbing a cow that is flying in the wind, and a person running for his life against the tornado are all visible. And the special effects on this has really that we can really have a degree of stylization. Okay, so now typically dialogue is really important part of this comic strip, and that makes into the final comic book. So what are you going to do to make it count? So tip number 1 is to ask yourself why. Okay, so we have to ask what is the purpose of your character's speech? What is his motivation? What drives him to say what he wants to say? Maybe he wants to show his knowledge. Maybe he wants to insult the other character. Maybe he wants to impress, convince, or distract. Perhaps he just wants to be alone. Whatever the character's will is, it will influence how or he speaks in a comic strip. Tip number 2, the dialogue should be brief. Okay, so long, eloquent speeches are always reserved for authors like Shakespeare and Von Belanes. Then tip number 3, allow questions to go unanswered. It feels like treading water when conversations go question, answer question, questions like, how was your day? Or wonder who the killer is, deserve no response in the comic strips. Allow the other character to respond with a question, their own project, their own will. For example, did you feel the cat? Or where is my coffee cup? Instead of banalities instigate conflict in the different dialogue of the characters. So allow questions to go unanswered. And then for the tip number 4, the character's dialogue should reveal his or her personality. For example, the professor and the boxer should not have the same tone of voice. However, for added effect, you could twist the cliches every now and then and have the barbarian warrior speak like a philosopher. And tip number 5, play with rhythm and variation. Okay, so remember to change the length, the tone, and the purpose of the word balloons. And similarly to how funnels should vary, the dialogue should keep the readers on their toes and toes by changing organically. Every balloon does not have the same three-sentence structure. And I'm hoping that these pointers, the tips on how we're going to make a dialogue, will assess us in creating a dialogue in our own comic strip creation. So how to create a comic strip? Okay, so creating a comic strip is a rewarding task. but it can be a difficult task at times. Finding the right storyline and creating something entertaining within a few constraints is more difficult than it appears. Number one is for us to decide on a story that you want to publish. Make a decision. What is the story all about? Well, you don't have to know every detail of the story you're trying to tell with the strips, but you should have a general idea of where it is going. And then you're going to choose your format. You must decide how many panels to average, whether to average one row or two, or three to four panels in the norm for one row strip like the comic strip Garfield, six to eight for a two row comic strip such as Curl the Sack as an example. There are also one panel and three row comics. Of course, if you intend to publish your comic in print, sticking to a specific size essential, such as newspaper. Don't be concerned if you intend to have them online. Instead, if you're printing, and even if you're not, it's best to keep a single row the same width and height. And so you can have one strip with one row and another with two rows, but all three rows must be the same width and height. Just like in the example image in the presentation slide. And then plan each panel. When you're ready to start working on an individual strip, write down and plan out each panel. So you must be aware of what is happening in the story, where which characters will be present, and so on. Maintaining a straightforward approach, a written script should be as straightforward as possible. Scenery description should only be included if they are necessary to the script's actions. And then we are going to have the the balanced text and images. Make sure it is too much it there is no too much text in your panels. This can make it difficult to read and enjoy the comic. So try to keep the word of speech balloons to two, three, or if there is a cone or one or two word balloon. Okay, and the number of words in a panel to less than 30, preferably less than 20. And then for the creation of the character, so we have to give them hopes and dreams, give them flaws, flesh out their lives, fight cliches. So for giving them hopes and dreams, you give your characters what they desire. When you're out of ideas, having established goals is a great way to drive the story and create a storyline. So give them flaws, of course. You don't want the characters to appear to be perfect. This appears to the readers to be unrealistic and boring if the characters are always perfect. Give your characters flaws if you want to people to sympathize with them and root for them. They can be greedy. They can be overly chatty, rude, selfish, or not smarter than the average characters. Also, flesh out their lives. So, give your characters backstories, interests, hobbies, and other details that demonstrate they have real lives. This makes them appear more genuine and relatable. And then defy the stereotypes, make your characters normal in the comic book sense. Give them distinct characters and come up with new interesting ideas in your comics. Keep in mind that your characters do not have to fall in love. Make a character for the sole purpose of being a love interest. For example, make them realistic. And if a love story between two characters seems appropriate, let it develop realistically. So cliches are not how people are, they are how people believe they should be. You can help to change this by having your characters act like real people. Okay. So how are we going to draw the comic? First is for us to draw the frames, another is sketch the characters, add speech bubbles, as simple as that, sketch backgrounds and scenes, do your line work, you have to add text, add color. In order for us to do the frames, first we are going to draw the frames. You must decide on which panel should be the largest, smallest, and so on based on the amount of dialogue in the script. Just make sure that you stay within your size and size limitations. And then sketch the characters. Next, make a rough sketch of where the characters will go. Make sure there's enough space for speech balloons. Try to rearrange or arrange them so that the panels does not appear too full or too empty. And then add speech bubbles, make a rough sketch or where the speech bubbles will go. Okay, so keep in mind not to cover the characters of the comics or take up too much space in the frame. Keep in mind that changing the shape of the speech bubble can sometimes be used to indicate a specific voice. A bubble shaped like a cartoon sun, just like what we are seeing while we are when we are reading as comic, with pointy edges, for example, can make a character sound like they're yelling or shouting. Use this to your advantage. We might search good examples of speech bubbling. And the sketch background and scenes, after you decided to where the characters will go, you can add a background and other objects. And if you want, so some comics have extremely detailed backgrounds, while others include the basic objects anywhere or in which the characters interact. So we have the option of going anywhere in between or beyond. So do your line work. Okay, so to make sure your sketch lines look clean and professional, go over them with sometimes dark and a little more permanent. Remember to experiment in line and width and other artistic techniques. When you're finished, is erase the sketch lines. Add text. So after you finish drawing the comic, for example, you can add text to the speech bubbles. Larger or smaller text indicates whispering or shouting, respectively. Make use of a legible font as well. And then for you to add color, you can color your strip if you want. Keep in mind that coloring takes time and will significantly reduce the number of strips you can complete in a given amount of time. Okay, so and if we want to publish our comic, decide if of the updated schedule. If you're going to have your comics printed in a newspaper, that newspaper will most likely have a very specific schedule for when comics need to be updated. You must meet those requirements. You will have a little more leeway if you publish online. However, keep in mind to be realistic. And then you are going to build a buffer. If you want to publish your comics, the first thing you should do, regardless of the medium you are using to get your comics to reader, is create a buffer. So this is a list of strips that are currently available. For example, if you only have one update per week, keep a buffer of 30 strips. For example, that way, if you fall behind the schedule, you still have a strips available. So if you are really interested with comic strips, publish it in a paper. If you want, you can publish your own comics in a newspaper. This could be your, for example, if you have your school publication, school newspaper or a local newspaper, call their submissions department so that they're looking for new comics. As an unknown, it can be difficult to get your comic into a newspaper. Okay, so we also have to prepare ourselves if we want to really publish our own comic strip. So publish your comic online. You can publish your comics online instead if you want to reach a larger audience. Have more control of over your work and have a better chance of controlling how much money you make. This is simple to do, but the amount of money you make will vary, and the developing a readership can be difficult. Make use of a website. Many websites are well known in for hosting comics. You can create an easy, up to date page where people can find your comic, similar to on how you started a blog. This is excellent for beginners. Uh, the popular one, I think, is the Smack Jeeves and Comic Fury. Of course, are those are I think that the popular choices. So we have to create a website. You could also create your own website. This will give you more control, but it will also require more work. This will give you more control, of course. Only do if 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 you believe you are capable of creating a nice looking website on your own, or being an independent comic publisher, or with a little assistance. Make use of your own blog. Comics are increasingly being published on blogging sites such as Tumblr. This is a very publishing mechanism that allows you to put ads to make money if while also not costing you anything to host the sites. So if we really have to publish our created comics. So another tips is for us to additional suggestions for creating a good comic strips. Okay, so make a cool title to give your comic a personality. Look up a cartoon drawing tips on the internet. It's best not to draw the boxes before the scene. In case you can fit everything in it, make a comic out of the story you've read, and the more you practice, the better you will become. It might also be a nice to fill them with watercolors or any coloring materials, which can look effective and don't require much detail, just like splash here and there. If your school does not have a newspaper, you can still you can have to start one. So you can try your hardest to go through creative outputs. Of course, there are traditional outputs of creating comic strips, and it's not a quick process. We must put forth considerable efforts to produce a standard and good comic strip. It is extremely difficult to be a cartoonist, and a cartoonist have those skills which they have improved through practice and a lot of readings and tutorials. There's nothing wrong with not being able not to create a comic strip. What matters is that we are attempting to create one and are proud of our own works, our original works. There are various sketch applications available in our phones, applications from Play Store or App Store that can truly assist us in making a strip. And I hope that there will that we will be able to practice solely through the use of these different application. I may suggest a Photoshop, Adobe Illustrations, and a lot more applications that is still available and is available online or offline. And of course, if you want to subscribe with the different applications, uh, we can, as long as we can make just a simple and short, just a simple and brief comic strip. Okay, so it's fine as long as we make our own comic strip. So it's either we can make use of our traditional method using our own paper, pencil, coloring tools. As long it's okay, as long as we can really make our own original comic strips. Another tips is that remember when the instruction says boxes, keep in mind that the events can also be drawn in circles, stars, and other shape. It is not usually in a square or rectangle shape. We can also use panels like shape like circles, stars, and other shapes. So, reading cartoons can give you ideas or can inspire you. It's not necessary to instill in order to be inspired to stay organized, create a Bible for your comic strip in the same way that an animated show creator does. This would include everything about the comic strip, characters, sketches, strips, scripts, story ideas, and everything else. And you could make your own comic as an image on the computer. There are numerous methods and programs for accomplishing this. And in this case, I drew the black outline without coloring it, scanned it, and then opened it on an image editing program, just like what I said, the Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, or the Photoshop. We can make use of those applications. You should be able to fill in the blanks, look for ideas, such as other comics, paintings, and so on, in order for us to inspire with our comic strip making. And to create and be inspired by the comic strips we have available, we must continue to keep these suggestions in mind. Okay, so there are additional benefits of comic strips in reading education and learners education. So always keep in mind that we must use our comic strip in a specific location and a specific time. So there are great visual representation of knowledge. The comic strip in our teaching learning situation presents what is essential. A comic strip is easier to remember when a visual graphic containing key information, engaging through thinking, creating, and writing. Perfect avenue for writing a dialogue, incites students with low interest in writing, It helps organize through storytelling and storyboarding, using visual images convey meaning to story or topic, develops creative and higher level thought processes, and it comic strips all develops composition techniques through visual to verbal connections, and enriches reading, writing, and thinking, and serves as an assessment and evaluation tool. Sequencing promotes understanding. So, okay, so we will simply have to improve if we are worthy of our needs to complete a comic. Reading is, of course, enjoyable. In the midst of pandemic, we must take care of ourselves and create something that really assists our frontliners fighting COVID-19 and restoring normal education. I'm hoping that in comic strips, we'll be able to create something that develops using these visual tools, whether it's in its skills or something else. Okay, so let us see the studies on comic strips as a strategy in learning. And these are the observation of the different authors, different studies. In this study, it simply stated about comics that aids in the development of the competence, innovation, and flexibility, and aids in the reduction of the gap between theory and practice. So the study is all about the comics as teaching strategy in learning of students in an undergraduate management program by these uh, well-respected authors. And then we also have the effectiveness of developed comic strip as instructional material in teaching specific science concepts. Pet Francis H. Consombang, Odina C. Interia as the authors. And in these studies, that tells that the comics as instructional materials for teaching strategies, specific science concepts, comic strips were really effective. Experts unanimously agreed that the instructional material is suitable for use in the classroom. So students perceive that the comic strip is aided in the promotion of good comprehension, the development of their science process skills, and the raising of better awareness on topics such as waste generation and management, and as well as the impact on human development. So that is the message of the or the conclusion of the study. And then in this study, using comic strips with reading text, are we making a mistake by Roya Coy, Zara Foroshiz, in reading materials, the effects of comic strips on the reading comprehension of beginner L2 learners may be limited by a variety of factors, including the student's comprehension level of the written text and their individual strategies for the proper processing the text. Okay, so let us try this. We could practice our comic strip skills whenever we wanted. Just give me your best work at any time and try to communicate with me about your comic strip output. I wish your continued success. So you are going to send me your output simply by sending a private message to our website to my my email, so mikeydamaso@gmail.com. Thank you for your response. I hope we are all doing our best during the pandemic and are able to apply all of the lessons we learned in this simple visual discussion about comic strips and reading innovations during the pandemic. So thank you very much for our educational purposes. It is widely used to gather information and to do research or add to the knowledge of various subjects. Internet plays a very vital role in education. It is no doubt that in this modern era, everyone prefers Google for their queries, problems, or doubts. So I just wanna have to say thank you for my references of this slide. Okay, and thank you so much again to everyone. Uh, Everyone's wishes are for the best. Thank you so much, Institute of Global Professionals, for this opportunity to be one of your speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Research has found out that 65% of general population are visual learners. Therefore, adapting all the things that you have discussed and shared today is another yet useful and meaningful and helpful and enjoyable way to address these challenges we are facing right now. Though it might be a challenge on the part of the teachers, especially those who are not into arts. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one will absolutely promote creativity from our students' comic strips. How great it
Yeah.
is to transform our hesitant readers to become voracious readers, to
Mhm.
become yeah, from hesitant student to voracious readers. So it's very nice to adopt what you have just discussed. Xin cảm ơn. It's how our Vietnamese friends say thank you so much for that very impactful presentation. It's
Maraming
already
salamat.
past. Maraming salamat po. It's
Maraming
already past
salamat.
12. Yeah, it's already past
Mm.
12 here, but I don't feel hungry at all. I'm feeling full with all the amazing presentations that our brilliant speakers are talking and sharing. So, our beloved attendees, if you have some questions about our topic today, please type them down in the comment section below. We will try to ask as many questions as we can. It's our opportunity to get more information from them. Keep them coming. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, please be ready for our quiz show. Log into our, are we going to log in? Quiz show. We have our participants. How many do we have? We have 67. So let's wait for the others to join this quiz show. I think I'm also going to join. So our code IGP quiz. Okay, keep them coming. 94 participants. There you go. 102 participants already. While we're waiting, please still share this webinar that we have. Okay, so there we go. We're starting. So the first question is, this is an easy program for helping students discover a wide range of reading possibilities. First chapter Fridays or first chapter Tuesdays? And the answer in 4, 3, 2, 1. Show Q&A. Show. Okay. Wow, 87% got it correct. Okay, the next question. Credit. Top one in the list. The second question. It is a visual tool that defined as a set of images inside boxes that tell a story. Comic strip or illustration. Okay, 91%. Yes, 99%. Okay. The next question. This century is the origin of comics in which the printing machine was also invented. Is it in the 17th century or in the 18th century? I think I'm going to get this wrong. Not sure. I wasn't able to take note of the history. Take out my notes. The answer, majority answered 52%, 17th century. The answer is the answer is okay. Yes, it's in the 17th century. Yeah, I think I would choose 18th century. I wasn't able to take note of that. The next question. It is the process of looking at a series of written symbols and getting meaning from them. Is it reading or innovation? I'm going to get this right. I think majority of us. Should be 100%, guys. Yes, 91%. Okay, I was hoping 100%. Let's go to the next question. Oh, Giancarlo is leading. Is the number one in our leaderboard. Next question. They are visual artists who enjoy creating comic strips or sequential art. Cartoonist or novel artist. This one we have to get 100% as well. The answer is kidding. Yes, cartoonist. 97%. That's good. The next question, please. Still Giancarlo. The year in which the golden age of comics began and another genre-defining character, Batman, was introduced. Oh, I'm so bad at history. 1939 or in 1900? And the answer is reveal. Oh, it was in 1939. Next question, please. We also have a lot of active participants typing their answers in the chat boxes. That's great. The seventh question. It was at this point that the concept of a cartoon was born. Oh no, I was not able to take note of those details, but I think our attendees will be getting the correct answer. Awesome. 1840 or in the 1850? Wow, yes, it was. Okay, reveal, answer reveal. Okay, 1840. More than half of our attendees are getting all the questions right. That's very impressive. Still in the lead is Giancarlo, followed by Ariel. Next question, please. The eighth question. Reading requires to identify the words in print is also known as comprehension or word recognition. Okay, let's see. Answer reveal. The answer is yes, word recognition. 65% got it correctly. Next question, please. The ninth question. Second to the last question. Reading requires to coordinate identifying words and making meaning is also known as a first option, word recognition or fluency. Yeah, others say A, others say B. Let's see what is the correct answer here. One answered A, B. Okay, let's see. Answer reveal, fluency. Yes, the answer is fluency. Let's go to the last question. The last question. Reading in its fullest sense involves weaving together word recognition and comprehension in a smooth manner. Is it true or false? Most are answering B in our option. Let's reveal the answer. Oh, the answer is false. But in our chat box, a lot got B. Wow. Okay, I think there was a technical problem with this. Yeah, all right. So let's see the leaderboard and let's see who are the winners. Okay, congratulations, Giancarlo Avalonza, for getting the top one position. There we go. So we have Giancarlo Valonza getting 9 out of 10, Ariel Mabansag, Linda. Okay. We have, oh, all right. So those are our top winners. So let me start. Giancarlo Villanza, Ariel Mabansag, Melinda Hispano, Marisa Mitra, Maria Veneranza. Top 10. Up, please. Marty Omongos. Congratulations to our top 10 winners. Okay, so thank Okay, and now we're bringing you our question and answer portion. And we have here our three amazing speakers, Mr. Mike and Miss Sunshine and Miss April Joy, joining us on our screen to answer our questions. All right. So the first question, this is for Miss Guevara and the three speakers. As teachers, what is the primary goal in teaching reading? What do you think is the best tool that increase reading comprehension? So any of the three can answer?
Okay, as for me, the best tool that increase reading comprehension is we teachers or educators, because we are the one who will be designing our own interventions, innovations when it comes to improving the reading comprehension skills of our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What about Mr. Mike? Mr. Mike, we can hear you. I think you're on mute.
Okay, so here we are. So I think that for me that the best tool for reading for best tool that increase reading comprehension is of course we teachers also, because we really have to have that ideas in order for us to come up uh, with the different techniques and methods on how we're going to teach our learners in order for them to really learn all about certain reading materials or any other materials that they need to learn. That's it.
Okay, thank you. You want to add something, Miss Sunshine?
So the question, what is the primarily goal of the reading? For me, your goal is not to reading with what do you call this one? If you teach reading when you're looking forward to the result already, for me it's not good. You have to be thankful step by step process to what the student's progress is giving you. And another one, what is the best tool? There is no best tool. So we have to create the a what do you call this one? Um I cannot word it. You have to uh, try everything in order to teach the students how really is to read and to have a comprehension. We just have we do not have to stick to one technique because learners are diverse. They have different levels on how to cope up or teach themselves because the learning is to them. It's the learning comes with the students and not the teacher. So we have to plan everything like that.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, speakers. Now the question from Ms. Jenalyn Villar to all the speakers, how do you address illiteracy among your students? Um, any of our
Okay, so
beloved speakers?
Okay, so when we say illiteracy, it is the state of being able to read but being uninterested to do it. So in order for us to address that, maybe we can devise some tools or strategies that could motivate them. For example, students nowadays are very good in Facebook, Instagram, or in arts per se. So let us um, help them to love reading in devising some strategies that could motivate them, especially if they love the arts, comic strip, do it, or audiobooks. It could be useful for them to address illiteracy because nowadays it's very important for us educators really to help and to improve the reading skills of our student, because a student who cannot read is very somewhat what we can say very difficult for them to um, study or to learn something because they could not understand or read their anything in the subjects matter of their classes. Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm. Oh, thank you very much. Um,
Okay. Another one. My innovation that I brought to you is the answer to that question. One of the answer to that question, I devised that technique because of the illiteracy among my students. So why not? Um, in Filipino we have the hawa-hawa effect. So if one students love books, why not use that students in order to influence another students to love reading also? So that's body system works.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think that all the learners are what we call visual learners, and we have to of course help our students gain knowledge through reading, and as using different ICTs, media and technology. We are going to adapt that, and I think that these skills help also students to create knowledge through writing as well as developing their comprehension skills and as well as their ideas when it comes to media and technology.
Okay, thank you very much, our dear speakers. I hope that answers your question, Ms. Jenalyn. Okay, do we have more questions for our brilliant speakers? Okay, from Lamberto Pilatan Jr., ma'am and sir, ma'ams and sir, I would say. What do you think is the most effective strategy in making non-readers as readers in a school or locality wherein the learners does not have any gadgets and internet connectivity? Um, any of our speakers can go ahead. Just go ahead if you want to share your answers, or
As
you want to
what I have said a while back, the poster could be used, postcards, you will send it to them for the far flung areas or the students who cannot access without students who don't have access in the internet. You can use that, or the book swapping. That could be one way for them to help to improve their reading skills.
Okay. Okay, so hello.
okay.
Okay, so for
Yes.
me, I think that parents and teachers should observe reading fluency to students because if the learners are lacking when it comes to that kind of skills and they are slow in processing when it comes to reading. This is because the brain requires more time to carry out the complex cognitive process and that involves reading and learning. And from word recognition to comprehension, we have to, of course, have more patience, time, and more time as a teacher to come up with a solution when it comes to had that kind of situation wherein our learners are what we call non-readers in school. So we have to give time and effort for our learners.
Okay. So, in the question, there are learners who doesn't have gadgets and internet connectivity. So we have also that. But as far as the what they call this one, as far as I know, everyone has cell phone but doesn't have any internet connectivity. So, one of the strategy in my body system is the texting. Since we do not have internet, why not put it into texting? We can have their syllabication of the word that they are not aware of, so that they could practice pronouncing it little by little, and that's another way of learning. Thank you.
Wow, that's a very nice question, Sir Lamberto. Thank you. And the answers are also very brilliant. Thank you. Do we have more questions from Richard Ardenu? Speakers, is there such a thing as best reading strategy? If so, what is the best reading strategy you are personally using? Thank you. Thanks.
Personally, I'm using mine before the pandemic. I just innovated now for the lack of face to face. For me, it's the best as far as in my experience. Though some students fail pa rin. I fail after, um, especially when the body doesn't like the other body. What I did is to switch them again to another partner. for learning. But if we can say what is the best, really, we cannot really pinpoint what is the best strategy because the students, as I said, is diverse and they learn differently. So we need to try everything and see to it what is the best for us.
Addition to what Ma'am Sunshine said, when we say best strategies, reading strategies, it is somewhat um, you cannot pinpoint what's the best because again Ma'am Sunshine reiterated that students we have diverse students, so they have different solutions for every reading difficulties. So it could be best if you could devise a certain reading strategy for your students depending on what is the needed for them, because reading comprehension skills is very wide range. They could have problem in fluency, literacy, or word recognition. So it depends. So for me, best reading strategies is suit depending on the needs of the students. Thank you, Sir Richard, for that question.
Okay, so I think, Sir Richard, the best reading strategy for me is how are we going to make our students activate their background knowledge or their schemata. Okay, so of course, comprehension occurs when students are engaged in different activities that bridge their old knowledge to new ones.
Hmm. Okay, yes. I think our attendees also agree with your answers here. No strategy fits for all. We need to keep on improving and searching what's best for our students. Now, the next question from Ms. Leonsha to our two lady speakers. How can we conduct reading assessment tools to our students remotely, like Philippines and a ASER, ASER? Reading teachers are required to submit a SER reports even during the pandemic.
That's very challenging questions.
Yeah, it is. Is it ASER? ASER. I don't know what section
Phil
for.
Erie is for the Philippines, ma'am.
Phil Erie. Oh, okay. Phil
Phil
Erie
Erie.
and ASER.
ASER.
Okay.
Those are reading assessment.
Oh, I see.
You could,
Don't have
for the remote
idea.
area, maybe we can use through phone call per se. Because when we say remote area, they don't have any access in the internet. Or maybe we have applications or tools that we cannot use internet per se for doing that assessment.
Okay, so since we are in the field area, I just wanted to share what the coordinators of our school done in promoting the sections because for me it's very helpful. Um, we have the field area reports before the pandemic strikes. So what they did is they just promoted the grade levels as one section. So if grade 7 was promoted grade 8, you have already the records of who are the non-readers and readers already. So you can already note who needs help. And then again, another year that was delivered until now. So the reports are just being forwarded to the next language teacher for uh, another, what do you call this one, for the progress of the students. So I just want to share so that other schools also adopt that one.
Mhm. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Now, next question from Miss Maria Teresa Yambao. For all the speakers, can you suggest how parents help motivate their children to read? Our other attendees, maybe you can also suggest. Let's keep on
Okay,
Maybe
typing
since
your
I'm a
answers.
mother of four, uh, um, they do not want to listen to me because I'm their mother. They wanted to listen to the teacher because he or she is the teacher, and I'm not their teacher. So what I did is to buy them. I'm sorry, to buy them. This is very helpful. I'm not promoting the product, but I use it when I teach Korean students. I bought them a talking pen and a book where they can just tap the pen and then the sentence come out and then it becomes word to sentence then paragraphs. So my 3 year old and my 4 year old read alone. I just don't know others read that.
Maybe reading stories before bedtime could be helpful, or conditioning when they are younger, or children, the kids, you could have give ample time for them to read stories. You will be the one to read stories, so that it could be a motivation for them to really love reading, because children nowadays, if they see adults one that enjoy reading, they could be a possibility that really it is one way of motivating them to read or to love reading.
Thank you very much. Wow. I believe that, oh, the answers are also, some answers are
Okay.
also given in our chat boxes. So,
Okay,
oh, sorry.
so sorry. For me, for parents, we have to make time for our learners to read because uh, it is really necessary for us to be patient in teaching them the skills in reading. And of course, we have to read our child to read out loud that reading text, or it's either we have to give them rewards or praise if they come up with a good reading or good reading a word that is they learn something about that reading materials.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. So, okay. I think that is the last question. That's the last question that we have for today. All right. Thank you very much. I believe that we were able to gain so much knowledge and insight from the talk for today. And as for our announcement, we have announcement here in our screen. Starting from 1st of August, we have a free international webinar daily, time fixed from 6 p.m. So we just go to www.edu.igp, our website.com. Double bonus with regular webinar. Along with our regular webinars, we have also added webinars on every weekend, Sunday morning, and the month of September. September morning sessions date are from September 19th and September 26th, 9:30 a.m. BST time. BS time. So for our triple bonus from October, we will start webinar series programs. You will get individual certificate for each webinar, and after submitting all certificates, you will receive webinar series certificate. Highly focused teaching strategies, research, assessment, pedagogy, tools and techniques, professional development, and communication skills. Our first webinar series program, 5-part webinar series. Our topic, authentic assessment in teaching and learning. Part 1 is on October 1st, part 2 is on the 4th of October, and part 3 will be on the 7th of October, and part 4 will be on the 10th, whereas part 5 will be on the 26th. Our first webinar series. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Our second webinar series program, 4-part webinar series, topic teaching English as a foreign language in assessment. The first part will be on the 2nd of October, and the second part is on the 6th, while the third part is on the 20th, and the last part would be on the 24th of October. We have a lot of announcements. For our diploma certificate announcement, after checking your activity and your submitted certificates, if you qualified, we will upload your diploma certificate on our website. You have to download it from our website, www.eduigp.com from tomorrow. Wow, congratulations to those who have their diplomas. So this is the process and how you can get your diploma certificates. Go to our website, www.edu.igp, click diploma certificate, and from there you can get your copy. You can download your copy. You can also you can share also to your you can also directly share your diplomas on your social media accounts. This is the example copy of your diplomas. Okay, so step one, go to our website www.eduigp.com and September 12th, today's program name. Oh, the second step is get the certification link. Certification link is now available in comment box and pinned comments, so check those things. Certification link will be available always in this program post in our Facebook page, Facebook group, and YouTube description. For the certification process, you can claim your certificate in two ways. First is a direct link from comment box, pinned comment, and post description. But if you're not able to click this link, please directly browse our website, www.eduigp.com, for all information together. Find today's program, then the process are same. And the step three, browse our website or the given link, and then you will be redirected in this page of our website. Check the YouTube link, and then you can click enroll now. If you are new, you can create your account. If you have an account, then log in directly. After that, find similar title and get enrolled. So this is the process and how you do it. All right, again, this is the instruction on how to get your certificate code required. Yes, you need your certificate code so you can get your certificates. And our code for today's program, Reading Interventions During Pandemic, is code IGP2121. Again, it's IGP2121. Without code, no one is eligible for certificates. With codes, you can claim your certificates anytime. Again, our code is IGP2121. And with your code, click Get Certificate. Go again to our website, www.eduigp.com, and then search for our title, Reading Interventions During Pandemic, and then type your code, IGP2121, and then get your certificate. And there you go. After you type in your code, your certificate is ready. That's the final step. And yes, emphasizing that our certificate is ISO verified. It's a verified certificate. Certificate verification, HTTPS. Happy announcement. Now we don't have any traffic issues on our website. Hats off to all of you for your patience. Our free international webinar certificate is auto-downloadable in PDF file. You don't need to download it manually, so check your device file manager. Sometimes it looks uncompleted, which is for your mobile screen size. In PDF file, everything is okay. If nothing is found in your file manager, please check your browser setting or update your browser or try with another browse or try it from laptop or desktop. You can join all our live programs from Facebook page, Facebook group, YouTube channel, and our website. If anyone missed any program due to some unavoidable issues, still you can previously visit our webinar series with verified certificates. Dear participants, if any problem raised to claim your certificate or any other issues, please don't hesitate to contact us. With code, you can claim your certificate anytime. Our core team members are always ready in comment section to support you find solutions. Team Customer Service Representative, our beloved Cherise Abejo Caberos and Miss Janet Cablao. And we have Cherilyn Yamaguchi, Jonas Malingin, Alonso Rarin Cariaga. Our core team members from YouTube channel, Kelvin Linatok, Joel Danoog, and Jeffrey Sayag. Our next webinar will be on the 12th of September with our title, Developing a Miracle Mindset, with our four dearest speakers, Mr. Dr. Randy Ward, Nick, oh, okay. And we also have our topic in the evening session, our topic, Research Methodology and Literature Review. Our upcoming webinar, September 13th, on the 13th of 2021. Yeah, with our topic, Research Methodology and Literature Review. Okay, another upcoming webinar on the 14th of September with the title, The Importance of Health and Wellness. This is in the evening session. Okay, another upcoming webinar on the 15th of September with the title 21st Skills in Education and Integration of Technology. This is for our evening session. Another upcoming webinar in the evening session on the 16th of September with the title The Power of Women Leaders. And on the 17th of September with title Financial Education from our beloved three speakers from the Philippines. And on the 18th of September with the title The Power of Positive Thinking. Please tune in with our different speakers, three speakers. On the 19th of September, we're going to have a morning session with the title Interactive Learning Strategies in Education. And on the evening session, our title would be Psychosocial Issues of Students. Another upcoming webinar for our evening session on the 20th of September 2021 with the title Skills Not Degrees, the Future of Employment Globally. And on the 21st of September, the evening session with the title E-Graded Book for Teachers. Book also yourself to our another upcoming webinar on the 22nd of September with the title Doing Business and Training in the Online World. On the 24th of September, we're going to have an evening session with the title Character Formation in Educational Leadership. On the 25th of September, we're going to have an evening session with the title Learning Across Areas of Math, Social Studies, and Assessment. On the 26th of September, in the morning session, we're going to have a topic entitled Learners' Mental Health. Another upcoming webinar in the evening session on the 26th of September with the title The Value of Enterprise and Entrepreneurship Education. On the 27th of September, we have an upcoming webinar with the title English Literature and Psychology Role in Education. On the next day, the 28th of September, we're going to have a topic, innovative teaching strategies amidst pandemic. On the 29th of September, we have another upcoming webinar, Communication Skills in Teaching and Learning Process. Okay, on the 30th of September, we have this topic, Healthy Living Equals Successful Living. Okay, and again, the upcoming webinars. Please take a look at our upcoming webinars on the 1st of October. Webinar series, part 1, October 1st. Part 2, the 4th. Part 3 is on the 7th. Part 4 is on the 10th. And part 5 is on the 26th. The topic would be Authentic Assessment in Teaching and Learning, Part 1. That will be on the 1st of October. Another upcoming webinar on the 2nd of October, Teaching English as a Foreign Language and Assessment, Part 1. That will be our webinar series 2, Part 1 in October. And another upcoming webinar in the morning session on the 3rd of October, we're going to have Acing, the New Normal Education. On the 3rd of October, we're going to have a topic in the evening session, Disaster Preparedness and Climate Change Adaptation. And the part 2 of our upcoming webinar series, that will be on the 4th of October. We're going to have a topic about authentic assessment in teaching and learning. Okay, another upcoming webinar.
Oh, I
Webinar on the 5th of October with the title Competency-Based Teaching. Another upcoming webinar on the October.
and another series will be another topic will
Teaching English as a Foreign Language in Assessment. Okay, part 3 of our webinar will be on the 7th of October with the title Authentic Assessment in Teaching and Learning. That will be in the evening session. And another upcoming webinar on the 8th of 2021, October 2021, Strategies in Competent-Based Curriculum. Another upcoming webinar on the 9th of October, that will be Implications of Theories of Reading to the Teaching of Reading. And on the 10th of October, okay, those are our series of webinars that you can join in. Okay, again, the instruction for getting your certificates. So log in the code IGP2121.
Thank you very much. So that's it for our. I have a problem with.
Microphone. All right, so thank you. Thank you very much. And again, I just want to remind everyone to please leave us a review below and share this webinar with your friends and colleagues. Your simple act of support will help us reach to a lot of people out there. I would like to thank again our beloved speakers for today. Um, I believe that we were able to gain so much knowledge and insight from our speakers. Ms. Joy giving us a list of apps that can greatly motivate our students to love reading, at the same time empowering the students. Ms. Shine has also introduced us another strategy to facilitate learning, that is virtual buddies, which I think is really fun and authentic learning as they socialize to their friends. Finally, Mr. Mike talking about ideas, guidelines, and in using comics to enhance learning and at the same time developing other skills for our learners. Yes, this pandemic is absolutely going down in history, but not only as a large health and economic crisis, but also a driver for digitalization and innovation, particularly in the field of education. So we greatly thank our awesome, and brilliant speakers today who have the heart to share and impart their knowledge to all of us. So lucky to be the host of this webinar today, and I hope to have them again in our upcoming webinars. Thank you so very much to our active participants and attendees during this discussion. Now, once again, thank you so much to our speakers and everyone. This is your host, Sarah Gabrino. Thank you so much.